I'm the Executive Director of the Center for the Creation of Cooperation, and I'm also the Aggregation Administrator for our new Electrical Aggregation Program. I'm going to share with you a little map, community energy activities that you can join in for the creation of cooperation, which you can see is right in the center of the map. Over the past couple of years, we've been very involved in a variety of community energy organizing activities, which we consider to be part of a national movement that is creating community-supported clean energy. Clean energy is following the same path as agriculture and food. We're developing a variety of organizations and mechanisms for people to participate in building this clean energy economy. The Appalachian Renewable Energy Consumer Co-op, which is well represented here. Nearly all of the speakers we have are members of the co-op. Interesting people engaged in interesting projects and have a lot to share. This co-op has been going for about a year and a half. It's well established, and up on its head was a group of small business owners who have expressed interest in organizing another renewable energy co-op in the Athens area that is oriented towards the needs of small businesses. Within the co-op, we take an approach that always starts with addressing energy efficiency first, so that we can bring down energy usage and then bring in sources of renewable power. We have 3 different methods that we're developing to bring in sources of renewable power. We've developed a catalog of the local installers, 4 or 5 really well-developed solar installers. They're all contributing to the catalog and offering discount rates for co-op members. That's for solo installation. We have a pilot microgrid project. We're drawing together between 4 and 6 households that will tie together with their own source of renewable power. They will share that power and do it more efficiently than they would if they were just individual households, each with their own solo installation. We're exploring an even broader scale community-oriented installation of solar power, and that is in solar gardens. We're doing a feasibility study of working with public schools and build a solar garden in close proximity that large user would use directly. It would not flow through the grid, but would be, as they say, behind the meter. School or other user would directly use the solar power, so we would have relatively little line loss or other inefficiencies. We're setting up a structure in which the community surrounding the school, the parents and grandparents who have children in that school or who have gone there, will be the owners of the solar garden. And we'll try to gauge it so that a household will own a share in the solar garden that's proportional. In addition to these grassroots organizing efforts, we've been working very closely with the county commissioners and with the city of Athens to do a variety of county-wide projects. Initially, we got authorization from the county commissioners to create a long-range energy plan. Before we start planning, that we really needed to create some viable means, some vehicles to carry us forward. The 2 vehicles that we have created are, one, the energy efficiency competition. County Commissioner Chris Schmiel just talked about. We have a lot of information about the energy efficiency competition and how various members of the community and community groups can collaborate to help us become, as a community, much more energy efficient. We address energy efficiency first so that we're using less energy, and then bring in sources of renewable power. The other vehicle that we're working on is electrical aggregation on a county-wide level, building the capacity to get not only lower cost energy through pooled purchasing power, but also bring in sources of locally generated renewable power. Because of my long-term involvement with these issues, the county commissioners asked me to administer the aggregation program. We're currently evaluating proposals that we have received from energy suppliers and utility. Very, very promising combination of an established utility that is offering us power at a reasonable price and a very innovative energy company that is offering a set of programs that includes energy efficiency programs and renewable energy generation. The organization that we have formed to handle this aggregation is called the Southeast Ohio Public Energy Council, currently made up of Athens City and Athens County. Village of Amesville just passed a ballot measure that will allow them to join. And so we're in the process of forming what is called a Council of Governments, which is an actual separate legal entity which will have the capacity to contract for the energy and energy services. We also have 3 other villages in the county, Jacksonville, Brookville, and Trimble, which will have measures on the ballot in November. And if they pass, they will probably want to join the Aggregation Council as well. The way we're setting it up, it will be possible to continually expand this Energy Council. You'll notice the name is the Southeast Ohio Public Energy Council. In the long run, we will open it to the surrounding counties and other municipalities, patterning this after the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, which has been around for 15 years. It's the largest and oldest aggregation council in the country. They have been offering us free legal advice and sharing of their experience as we start down this road in expanding, because we have their experience to build on. To help you understand what we're aiming for, our basic goals of this organization are, first, of course, lower cost energy supply. Secondly, we want a really quality, reliable service. In a very, very groundbreaking, innovative way, we ask for our organizations to propose locally generated energy, and by that we mean renewable power, that it be clean and sustainable, that they include energy efficiency initiatives, and that they do it in such a way that we can support local economic and energy development. We are very fortunate that we have received a pair of proposals that together address all of our goals. We're in the process of both negotiating with them and facilitating a collaboration between these 2 very large energy suppliers. This collaboration between energy suppliers is even more unique, but the indications are that they want to serve us and help us reach our goals. In our request, we ask for them to suggest supply and pricing for sort of plain conventional energy, brown energy if you will, and for combinations that would be 25%, 50%, and 100% green energy. But here we mean green energy that is basically renewable energy credits that are purchased on the national market, which these days means probably wind power from Texas or Oklahoma. Step in the right direction, but it is not nearly as useful or powerful as locally generated renewable power. The wind power that is generated in Texas will go into the grid whether or not we buy it. But locally generated power will be new power. We requested proposals that would generate within Athens County up to 3 megawatts of power. And that's a substantial solar farm. That's enough power for about 324 households. We also requested up to 15 megawatts of power in Southeast Ohio in our region. And that is enough for about 1,620 households. So those 2 combined, if we get them, we will be having locally and regionally generated power enough for almost 2,000 households. and that would be a huge jump in solar power capacity. The economic development impact of those projects alone would amount to about 108 person-years of employment for the regional project and about 18 person-years of employment for the Athens County project. If you're looking at a job that lasts at least a year, we're looking at least 120 new jobs. And that's a lot of employment, particularly in a good-paying, growing industry, such as solar development. Locally generated power that we're looking for, but also an energy efficiency program that has very serious components of public education, of energy coaching, which means helping people take the necessary steps to move from learning about energy efficiency programs and possibilities to actually doing something. And that's where it usually breaks down. Most people know about these things, but don't know how to take the steps necessary to actually implement them. We also are looking at a proposal that includes a home retrofit, or in the terms we're using in Athens County now, an upgrade that would address moderate income families. We currently have a very good set of programs that COAD provides for low-income families. An obvious lack of any parallel program for moderate-income families. And we see a very distinct possibility of being able to provide that through the aggregation program. And not only to provide it, but to provide a financing mechanism that would allow the homeowner to get the financing up front and pay it off over time by charges on their electric bill. So they would not have to go to a bank and get a mortgage or other home financing, but it could be a seamless process that is well integrated. Within Ohio, there are a handful of really large energy suppliers. Some of them have taken very regressive political stance and have pressured the legislature and the governor to pass SB 310, which freezes the renewable energy and energy efficiency standards. And they, from what I understand, are very difficult to work with on the kind of project we're doing. There are other utilities that take a much more middle ground position and are open to building a collaborative way to the future. And that is what I feel we're offering them. If they will work with us, we will work with them, and together we can create a clean energy future. If they rigidly hold on to their piece of the pie and try to protect that and not come to work with the communities as we're offering, and as more and more communities are going to offer, then they'll probably die out. And so they have a choice, and I think we're offering a clear way forward, and the smart ones are responding to it. It's encouraging, it is.
If anyone's interested in learning about solar gardens, this tent is the place and now is the time. My name is Beth Clodfelter. I'm a member of the Appalachian Renewable Energy Consumer Cooperative that's here in Athens County. It's often known as ARECC. And a small committee of us have been working to try to bring solar gardens here to Athens County. What is a solar garden? A solar garden, in the simplest sense, is a solar energy array with multiple subscribers that is connected to the grid. Subscribers can purchase a portion of the power produced by the array and receive credits on their electric bills for the energy created. That is a really concise definition of something that I think is a very exciting idea. What a solar array means is that people who are interested in going solar don't have to necessarily have enough money to put solar panels on their own roofs. If they're renters, if they have a nice roof but their roof is shaded, or if they just don't quite have enough money to do that on their own property at this point, a solar garden can be a wonderful and less expensive way to go solar. What that definition means is that rather than having a group of people as individuals put a few panels on their own roofs, a group of people get together and contribute maybe a few panels to one large array, one large group of solar panels that is put in a place where it's going to get a lot of sunshine, and then records are kept about the amount of energy that is being produced by those solar panels. And the people who have helped to pay for the panels can get a credit on their energy bills for their portion of the amount of energy produced. But if, for example, there was a solar garden with 100 panels, 100 solar panels, and let's say you as an individual sponsored one panel. People might want to do more. We're considering ways to have people do parts of panels. But let's say you put in one panel. As measurements were taken of the amount of energy produced by that array in a given month, and a dollar amount was assigned to that amount of energy, because energy costs money, we pay money, good money for our energy, then once that amount of money was determined, you, as the person who had sponsored one panel, would receive 1% of the amount of money generated by the solar panel. That amount of money would be deducted from your electric bill. So after your initial investment to sponsor the panels, you would then receive monthly reductions on your electric bill, depending on how much the sun shines, and depending on your portion of the solar garden. Participating in a solar garden can just be a wonderful way for renters, for people whose roofs are inappropriate for one reason or another for solar panels, or for anybody who can't quite afford their own array at this point, to go green, to go solar, and to help grow the solar movement, as well as to help create more solar-related jobs. We aren't the first ones to think of this idea. The first solar garden in the United States, the first official one, was created in 2010 in Colorado, after the state of Colorado passed some legislation to make it easier to have solar gardens. So the state of Colorado has really been supportive of this. There are more solar gardens right now in that state than in any other state in the country. But Colorado's not alone. There are solar gardens in Delaware, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, Washington, in California, Washington, D.C., in Maryland. And there are forms of solar gardens, though not community ones, already in Kentucky, in our neighbor to the south there, in Berea, as well as in 2 communities in North Carolina, and this summer Kansas got their first solar garden as well. So a solar garden is something that's not specific to one political party or another, or any certain kind of community. It's something that a lot of people around the country are identifying as a good idea that makes sense for their communities and can help people go solar even faster. To the best of our knowledge, though, and we're pretty certain about this, there are no solar gardens in Ohio, nor in Indiana, nor in West Virginia, nor in Pennsylvania, nor in Michigan. And we think it's really time to have some more in this part of the country, and to have some in Ohio. And there's a chance we're going to be the first. We sort of hope some other communities on the ball with this and will beat us to it, really, because the faster this spreads, really, the better. But we might be working on the first solar garden in Ohio here. I don't know. We're doing our best to make that happen. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're working toward here in Athens, just so more people are in the loop. I should preface this by saying we're at the pretty early stages of the planning, so a lot of the details that people really want to know, we can't share yet. We're not trying to be coy. We just, until we really nail down some of the details, there's some key things we're not going to be able to share. But I can tell you there's a committee of us working on it from the Appalachian Renewable Energy Consumer Cooperative. And there are 2 things about what we're trying to do that are somewhat distinctive. A solar garden can basically be put anywhere where there's a lot of sunshine. They're usually sited in a place with optimal solar gain, if you will, so that people can maximize their investment and so that, you know, as much power can be produced as possible. But what we are hoping to do is to have, rather than having one giant one, to have several solar gardens in the county, and to have them either on or at, or perhaps both, the county schools, the K through 12 schools. And we're hoping to do this in a way, to structure the plans in a way that individual people sponsoring a number of panels or parts of panels, but with the energy that is actually produced, the actual electrons made by these solar panels being used by the schools. so that it'll be very efficient. There won't be energy lost in the wires as the energy is transmitted long distances. It would be used right there on site. We think it's a really good match for schools because schools tend to use most of their energy in the daylight hours when school is in session. That's been one of the criticisms of solar energy is, the sun doesn't shine in the evenings and at night when a lot of people use energy, but schools usually use a lot less energy at those times. So it's a really good match for schools that way. They could probably use the energy right as it's produced. We also think that there would be great opportunities to have educational benefits come to the students at the schools. We're hoping to really work with the schools in the county who are interested in doing so, doing some things that are pretty simple, like having monitors on site where kids could pay attention to how much energy is being produced and how much the school is using and see in real time the benefits of the solar panels. But we'd also like to suggest some curricular ideas and have there be lesson plans about it. We think there are all kinds of possibilities, not only in science class, but in math, maybe in English, in, social studies. We don't know. We want to think creatively about this and help teachers do the same. But we think that having solar panels at the school could be beneficial to the students on a number of levels. We'd like to try to get solar gardens at several schools in the county, certainly not just in Athens, but in the county schools that are interested in it as well. And what we are imagining at this point is that once it was like a school's turn, we might have to do them one at a time or a couple at a time maybe if things are going really well, that probably we would would sort of give a head start to the people who are involved in that school in some way, either because they're parents of the kids or their teachers or other people that work at the school, and give them sort of a special period where they can sign up so that they would definitely have the chance to do that and to help put solar panels on their school. And we think that would be great and would give people a lovely sense of ownership. But once a certain special period is over, whether it's a week or what have you, then if there are still panels available, and we think there probably would be, then the general public would be able to do this. You wouldn't have to be associated with the school to help put solar panels on that school. We think it's conceivable, if things go well, that there might be waiting lists and people might have to wait for the next school. And we really don't know what the community response is going to be, considering how much more affordable solar gardens make going solar. And considering the kind of responses that solar gardens have had in other states, where sometimes they've run out of the subscriptions in a single day, we think that it's really possible that this might get very popular. Our plan to site the solar arrays at the county schools is one thing that doesn't make us unique, but makes us kind of distinctive. Not a lot of people have done that yet. And then as far as we know, another thing that is distinctive about our plan might be the first time that this will have been done in the country with a solar garden. We, for a number of reasons, are planning to structure our efforts to get solar gardens at our schools as a cooperative. And Athens is a place with a strong tradition of cooperatives. There are all kinds of reasons, really democratic with a small d reasons to work as a cooperative. There are also some really practical, tangible reasons. The state of Colorado had passed some legislation that was very friendly to solar gardens and was actively promoting them. One of the things they've done there is to pass legislation approving something called virtual net metering. You may know that net metering is when, if you have solar panels on your own house, an electric company can keep track of that and credit you for the energy that's being created. Virtual net metering means that your solar panels can be somewhere else and the electric company would do that. In the case of a solar garden, it's really helpful if your state has passed that legislation. Unfortunately, Ohio has not done that. From what we can tell, they're not likely to anytime soon. So rather than let that really slow down our plans by many years, perhaps, we have had some encouraging conversations. We've gotten some legal advice. And it looks as though if we structure this as a cooperative, there are ways that it can happen without the state of Ohio passing legislation for virtual net metering. So it could help this be legal and happen much sooner. We've had preliminary conversations with people in the educational leadership here in the county. Those conversations were encouraging. And we've had conversations with 3 of the different solar companies in Athens County, and all the preliminary signs are good. It looks like some people may even be offering us free legal advice. Like, there are people that want to see this happen, that think it's a really good idea, and hopefully word will spread and more people will get excited. We don't yet have a website or anything, but if you're interested in getting more information about this, probably the best way to do so would be, if you are on Facebook, to like the Facebook page, if you haven't already, of the Appalachian Renewable Energy Consumer Cooperative. And the Appalachian Renewable Energy Consumer Cooperative, thank you, also has a website of its own, so you could even Google it and look up that website. Significant developments happen with the solar gardens. We'll be sharing the information in those two places, as well as eventually developing independent websites and Facebook pages as well. The question was, does a solar garden involve a large number of homes? The people who sponsor panels don't have to live right near each other. It's probable that you would allow people anywhere in Athens County to sponsor panels on a school if there were still panels available. It's not like a microgrid. People wouldn't have to be geographically nearby.
I've looked at the data for schools in Athens County, and individual school buildings use solar gardens somewhere between 0.5 megawatt and 1.5 megawatts in size to supply all of their power. Panels are typically about 250 watts. If you're doing a megawatt, that's 4,000 panels.
So we can't power a whole school with a community garden on top of the roof, probably then.
Probably not, but we hoped that we could at least provide a significant fraction of the amount of energy used. There are some benefits to be gained perhaps in the time of day if our energy companies would go toward differential pricing, like some energy companies around the country, where maybe they charge more in the afternoon in the summertime or something, or when it's hot. Then if the solar panels are on the roof and are cranking away in the hottest part of the day producing energy, that would be an additional savings for a school.
Would these be tied into the utility grid?
Yes. Yes, solar gardens are tied into the utility grid. Different utility companies around the country have had different reactions. A lot of them have been pretty positive because I think agreements have been struck in which the utility companies can claim the carbon credits for the solar gardens. And so if it's somebody else doing the work, they probably should be doing themselves. A lot of people around the country have found that their utility companies have been allies, not adversaries, and we're hoping that will be the case for us as well. We haven't started talking to them yet. We want to have a few more details figured out before we approach them. And we want to do that very carefully. There's some reason to be optimistic.
I might also mention, though, that particularly doing it with schools, we would have the panels situated so that they would be behind the meter, so that the power would be used directly and only surplus would flow into the grid. It's not the case that you sometimes have with the solar farm, where it's a remote location and it only flows through the grid. There are great advantages in terms of efficiency and in terms of the value of the energy, because you don't have the transmission costs on top of it.
Does this have something to do with that Georgetown $5 million prize for
that nifty competition about energy efficiency that Georgetown's sponsoring? It's not directly related. We were already working toward this goal before that competition was announced, that if we can make these solar gardens happen sooner rather than later, that they would help our county's efforts in that competition. Yeah, I think there will be all kinds of synergies among these different energy efficiency efforts that are going on right now. It could be pretty exciting. Yes?
Yes, another question I have. Perhaps later on, as you know, once the solar panels and everything are installed and used, the system could be retrofitted, you know, like say later on to even increase the efficiency, some storage capacity, or a smart inverter that will put the electricity on the grid when the grid needs it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would make it even better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there could be all kinds of improvements over time.
Great.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well thank you all very much for coming. Really appreciate your attention during this fun festival.
My name is Randall Gabriel, and I'm going to be giving a talk on microgrids, what they are, what they do, why they should be all over the world. If you don't know what they are, they're basically a small or large cluster of interconnected residential, or they can be commercial, industrial. A lot of the microgrids in the States right now are mostly in the industrial fields. We are going to be working on a pilot project here in in Athens County, clustering up 3 to 5 houses, putting one central array or potentially some dispersed arrays, but all of them being able to go off the grid if the grid's down or if they just so choose to stay off the grid. Basically lets them have a lot of freedom, a lot of resilience. If you have a bunch of different mechanisms to create power via solar panels, potentially wind and hydro are the three mains that normally go into microgrids, as well as normally they're coupled with a battery backup system. With this pilot project that we're doing, we're going to be a decently new technology, hopefully, which are the heart transverters, which they're exciting within themselves. They are basically a inverter, a charge controller, and a smart grid all in one. It's got a computer brain, and it will basically turn on and off different loads in your house so that your fridge doesn't turn on the same time as your freezer and your hot water heater, so you have this one big load all at once. Instead, it'll turn on your hot water heater, then it'll turn on your freezer, then it puts power where it should, when it should, but it does it in a very smart way. Just by installing one of these heart transverters, they say that it saves about 30% in your electricity just installing one of these because of the way it handles the loads. It has a separate controller that has a bunch of different relays. You have to wire that, it's for your big loads. So like for your heating and cooling, you'll wire a sensor to that outlet, to wherever that is from this little controller. So it does take some finagling, some rewiring. There's mysterious little tidbits here and there that I can do my best to explain. We're choosing from 5 different locations. My property is one of them, Currents community is one of them, Sabama community is one of them. It's another little community in the plains. Those are the different potential sites. He's asking how much power will be at each one of these little microgrids. That will be dependent upon the microgrid, because there's some of them that have larger demands than the others, but it's going to be somewhere around a 60 to 90 panel system depending on which location. She's asking if there's anybody willing to work with it. Oh, like AEP?
Yes.
To be determined. We're pushing buttons right now. We're going to find out. They're overall willing to work with people. AEP is better than Buckeye. Buckeye rule around here is pretty bad. And overall, that's one of the big advantages of having the microgrid system is the potential for the resilience it could bring to the overall grid. If there's tons of these little clusters of microgrids, it makes the whole system more resilient if the grid goes down. Roger Wilkins working with them pretty heavily right now.
The cooperative will have a larger role in deciding who gets connected and the regulations concerning the connections.
Yes, William.
What's your time schedule?
What's my time schedule? We are trying to get it done this year, but...
This year, for God's sake.
Yes. It has been
What's the barrier?
processing and also design and availability for time for design via the people that actually know how these heart transverters work. They are distributors right now of heart transverters. They're not using them a lot, but they're also still figuring them out. It sounds like they've had some kinks to work through in the past. It's a learning curve. They're complicated, but they're awesome. It is funded by the Sugarbush Foundation via OU. That will just cover the guts of the microgrid, but the panels and batteries will be responsible to the landowners to purchase that part, but the heart transverters, the controllers, stuff of that nature, it sounds like will be funded by the grant.
Do you need to be off the grid or grid tied?
Capabilities of both, kind of the hybrid system, so where that we would ideally like to be grid tied, if the grid will work with us. If they don't, we'll not work with them and just be completely off-grid, but ideally we'll be a on-grid, off-grid hybrid system. How does it work when there is no sun and you're off the grid? It's going to be battery backed up pretty heavily, and then hopefully we'll find some other alternative energy sources to power stuff like this that you can run when it's nighttime.
I've been working on a galvanic battery system that actually produces energy. It's like a battery, but then another way it's different than battery, but it actually generates electricity, and it can be used to trickle charge the main solar batteries, but also it can be used to generate electricity at night.
What's the fuel?
It's similar to a fuel cell. It generates electricity by galvanic action.
What's the fuel?
Tap water.
I'll go on. There's no energy in
Tap water contains chemicals that activate the plates and everything.
That won't.
So, but anyway, this technology is due to be rolled out within about 6 months. The galvanic battery system can work at night and in the wintertime.
You got to put energy in to get energy out. What is the energy you're putting in?
The energy comes from a chemical reaction between the tap water and the metal plates. You just purchase the metal plates from a manufacturer, and then the chemical reaction is continuous. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Let's say that you want to generate power when it's dark, cloudy, and been that way for 4 or 5 days. How do you get your energy? Your battery is down.
Batteries are run out. You've tapped your solar. Well, there is no solar, so now the only real alternative available is off a shelf is a diesel generator or something of that nature. Thermal compressors, a heat engine that will hopefully be able to use alternative fuels to be able to create electricity, biogas, solar when there is solar, wood gas, very possible fuel sources for this little unit. Then let's do an EV parade!
few, we happy few, we band of brothers, will now start to save the world. Then an hellfire and damnation speech starts off with a joke. Then it goes on to the hellfire and the damnation. Then it goes on to salvation. And then it ends up, give me some money. Okay? That's the old standard procedure, which I heard many times as a kid growing up in the South. When I was a kid in the 30s, I was born in the Calvin Coolidge administration. No TV, so we all listened to the radio. And our favorite was Jack Benny. Jack Benny was a notorious, on his persona on the radio, a notorious skinflint. He was always pinching pennies. Jack Benny is walking down the street. A robber pops out from a dark alley, sticks a gun in the guy's face and says, your money or your life. And Jack Benny says, I'm thinking. That's what we are doing. The climate scientists say, get off fossil fuels or you're dead. And we're saying, well, maybe not. How much does he cost? Do they really work? That, folks, is the way to hellfire. Because those guys are right. They've spent a lot of time, they've learned their lesson, and they're telling us the truth. And my granddaughter over there is going to have a hell of a life regardless, no matter how hard she works. Because that's what I have given her as best as I could, and finding more and more. The climate scientists would say we got to quit. We haven't quit the least bit. At this moment, the United States is burning more fossil fuel than it ever did in history. We're not even slowing down, folks. We're off the cliff faster and faster. We're not beginning to slow down. Now, I bring this up in polite table conversation. We don't want to tell you about it. We don't want to hear it. The hell with it. There we stand. The gun is in our face. The clock is running like crazy. What are we doing? We're doing nothing. And that's okay. As long as you're the guy who's suffering for doing nothing, tough luck. Trouble is, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same damn boat as you are, so is my granddaughter, and so is everybody else. So, if you sink that boat, we'll all go down. Every one of us. And it looks like the boat is getting ready to sink. We've gone way past the time where the scientists said, you still got some time. We don't have any time. We're done going. The only thing we can do is pop the parachute as much as we can so we don't hit the ground with a totally deadly thud. That's the hellfire damnation part. There comes the salvation part. The salvation part is, we know damn well how to fix it. We know how to fix it. So, how do you fix it? Just do it and say to other people, okay, don't tell me. Don't tell me you can't do it because I already did it. We'll spend some money and do everything in my house. Everything. And on solar PV panels. And I did, and it works. And that's what we're doing. And the white meter today, I just read it, that since we bought that stuff, we have taken 700 kilowatt hours off the grid. And we haven't given them back 3,500. 700 out, 3,500 back. And I run the whole house and the car on that. At this point, you say, oh yeah, but you must have spent a lot of money. I'll tell you what I spent. I spent not going 3,000 miles across the continent to visit my grandkids in Palo Alto. I spent not going to a bunch of fancy restaurants. I spent not going around the country in a camper pickup truck that gets 15 miles per gallon. I spent not all that, and I got gobs of money to do what I did, and a lot left over. The guy down the road, I know very well, a good fellow, spent more for his pickup truck than I did for everything I got to get my house totally off fossil fuel. The heat pump works super. even on a kind of gloomy day today, I just looked at the light meter before I came out here. We came out ahead 6 kilowatt-hours over the day, including charging the car and running the solar heat pump that heats the hot water. All the technologies are here. You don't have to invent anything. Just do it. The cost, bullshit. Don't even talk about it. The cost of not doing it is everything there is. What is the cost? And the cost is, if you don't do it, you're dead. Your money or your life. Yeah, okay, that's the hellfire. That's the salvation. I got more money than I got hours left of my life. I'm not worried about it. The rest of you aren't so lucky. Start from where you are. Oh, that is evil. That's that message. All right, start from where you are. Get together with people who are willing to go with you and go and just ignore all the naysayers and all the doubters and all the can't-do-its. Like, just ignore it. Do it and brag about it. That's important. Don't just sit there quietly thinking how great you are, like I tend to do. I'm hiding away in my shop thinking how holy I am. That's not the right thing to do. You gotta go out and make a big noise. They'll say, I can't let this guy be holier than I am. And they'll go out and do it. So that's my plan. The fun part and the essential part is to write out your own vision of what you want the world to be. Don't not do it because it ain't politically possible or because it's just fiction and that's not the way the world works. Do it because if you have a vision right in front of you that you really think would be great, then you can get somewhere. You can work on the vision. A lot of people don't have any vision. They just go from day to day trying to scrape up. If you get together in a group, I know that Roger Wilkins has got a group with great goals. I wouldn't want to criticize them for the way they're doing it. I don't know enough. Get together, number one, realize it's absolutely vital. It's not a choice. It's essential. And it's possible. And if you get together with enough people, you can start. And of course you're going to start small. Everything starts small. I started small. So did you. So did the whole world. Everything started small. You go from where you are. One of the things that I was astounded by when I started getting involved in all this is how many really good people there are out there who are ahead of me.
Do I want to talk about what I'm doing? I'm trying to build my off-grid house. I have land in Meigs County. I had no reason to choose moving here except for that it seemed like this kind of thing was going on here.
I moved here 3 months ago. I picked this place, and I didn't realize how much it was going on here until after moving here, but there's some brilliant minds. There's some people I've been really lucky to get to meet and work with. And I'm glad that I operate kind of randomly sometimes and picked Athens to settle outside of, because there's a lot going on here. Thank you guys. And thank you.
There are an awful lot of really good people, tremendously energetic and admirable in every way, who are putting their energy on griping about the secondary effects. In other words, fracking. Fracking is a symptom. It's not the disease. Disease is natural gas. The disease is fossil fuels. Now what I'm suggesting is get the hell off fossil fuels. If the guys who are fracking don't have a market, they're not going to do any fracking. So they kill them at the source rather than just put a band-aid on the outside thing. Being against the fracking per se is also important, no question. I wouldn't want anybody driving a truck down my road to dig a hole to look for natural gas. Really go bad. I would hate to see that. And I hate to see it going on other places. But in my view, the solution is to quit. And you can do it. all the advertising in the Sunday newspaper doesn't have to be done. If you want that fuzzy little toy from Walmart, you can go get it. You don't need to be told to go get it. Do it yourself. And tell them to quit pumping out all that paper and all that energy to put that stuff in my garbage. Danny doesn't want to talk. He has so much to say. When I first met him, he told me he used 1 kilowatt hour a day. A day! Even if he used 5 kilowatt hours a day. That's an astonishing thing.
We are doing what William is advocating. We have formed a first renewable energy consumer co-op. We have a pilot microgrid project that will tie together a number of households and bring them off the grid. We have a feasibility project on solar garden, promises to take a lot of people off of fossil fuels simultaneously, and that's just at the grassroots level. At the county level, we're working closely with the city and the county commissioners to bring in aggregation that is allowing us not only to lower the price of fuels, but to bring in energy efficiency programs and to use that flow of funds to start generating locally produced renewable energy at a utility scale. And that will, again, move a lot of people off of fossil fuels. We're also working with the county commissioners on the Georgetown University Energy Efficiency Competition, which is well represented here. And that is helping a lot of people and will help a lot of people become more energy efficient so that renewables becomes much more economically feasible for them. We're trying to get the word out, and it's time for everyone to step up and join one or more of these projects, talking about it and start doing it.
A lot of people really are doing a lot of good stuff. I mean, after all, isn't Athens County one of the poorest counties in the state? I know some people in Athens who have disposable income. And I know that they put it on Wall Street. That's, sorry to say, stupid. Wall Street is a bad place to put your money. It's a real bad place. You don't know what they're going to do. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the United States is in debt way past over its head. We are in an impossible borrowing situation. If the people who lent the United States the money say give it back, we would not be able to do it. And when you get a whole country like that, eventually the other people who are lending you money say, I'm not going to lend this guy any more money. I totally lost what I've already lent. And when that happens, boom, stock market goes to hell. And if you got your money on Wall Street, you're doomed. If you put your money right here in Athens County, you're safe. You got it here. You got a thriving community. You got nobody poor. You got everybody working on what needs to be worked on. You're all happy, and you're living off the sun. You're there. You put your money where you live. If you put your money with this guy or that guy that you know personally is doing good stuff, if he messes up, you can put your money off of him and put it somewhere else, and you will see right there in front of your eyes, he did or did not do what I lent him the money to do. It's a way less risky deal. And what I'm saying to my friends, no luck so far, would you please redefine the name return on investment? Where's my return on investing in my kids? It isn't money. I haven't found out yet what it is. That's supposed to be a joke. If you redefine return on investment to include a thriving, safe community, you can see a huge return on investment by putting your money right here in Athens.
My name is Fred Holmes, and I run a company called Total Energy Solutions. and we're working on energy efficiency projects. We did the Athens Library, which was a wonderful project, replaced all the T12s with the T8s. We're working on a house here in Athens. We're looking at the insulation, we're looking at the windows, we're looking at the lighting, and they're wanting that house to be more comfortable. That's their home, that's where their children have grown up, and energy and being comfortable and energy efficient is very important to them. So a lot of this stuff is going on, and Mr. Beal is right about investing back into your community and back into various projects. There's a program called PACE, which is Property Assessed Clean Energy, and I know they have it up in Toledo area and they have one down in Cincinnati. That's a wonderful program that loans money to people. There's people I know that would love to do solar. I've got people who'd love to do a lighting project. Money's tight. You borrow the money, the community goes out, the legislative body goes out, borrows the money, and they pay it back on the assessment on their property. And guess what? If you sell the property, it goes with the property. So it's a wonderful program, and it's one that I'm hoping that Athens County picks up on, because it really would be very, very helpful in addressing exactly what Mr. Beal is talking about.
I keep looking at my house. When was that house built?
1889.
1889. It's an old house, right? When we first moved there, you could see through the cracks the way it was when I was a kid in the rural South. The house in those days was half an inch thick. And that was it. That's what everybody lived in. And I look at this house, and I keep saying, this is okay. We've done a lot of work on this thing since we moved here in 1960. There's a lot more we could do. We got a part of the house that's super insulated, super tight. And you can live in that little part of the house in the worst possible case. I sort of like that idea, and I'm going to be trying to make our living room that kind of a place. Now, back to the point that was just made about comfort. When we insulated our attic from something like, I don't know, maybe R20 to R50, we immediately, I mean now, noticed a tremendous improvement in the quality of the house. It was a lot more comfortable, and it was a lot less noisy. And you get an instant payback for some of this stuff. As a matter of fact, house insulation is the quickest payback there is. You can hardly beat it. To get the guy to come in and blow in all the chopped up newspaper stuff as insulation, and the next hour you see the difference right now. So I really highly recommend that stuff. You can even think about just expanding the house, putting another foot outside of the walls. I got a solar-powered electric heat pump for heat, which is very small. In the wintertime, I turn that thing on, I got instant heat. I don't have to start up the stove even though I want to. This little guy over here has something to say.
He says he wants a clean energy future.
You ought to start a class action lawsuit against me for grand theft and murder, because I'm guilty of both of them. My generation is.